I'm Carol Bacak-Egbo, historian for Oakland County Parks. Join me now for an episode of History in Our Parks. "2,000 years of history in under 6 minutes. A Groveland Oaks County Park story. Sometimes historians look at little segments of time, like what happened in a place in the last 50 years. Sometimes we look at wide expanses of time and how events flow and connect with each other. This is that kind of story. Groveland Oaks is located in Groveland Township, which is in the northern part of Oakland County. It's located right along Dixie Highway, and like any place, its history is connected with its location. Dixie Highway is a part of what was once the Saginaw Trail, a significant Native American trail used for hundreds of years. The proximity to that trail increases the likelihood that there was a Native American presence in the area, and there's evidence for that. Just a couple miles to the northeast of the park was a significant set of Native American burial mounds, estimated to be about 2,000 years old. Those mounds are gone, like most Michigan mounds. Some were leveled by farmers because they were in the way. Some were destroyed by people looking for artifacts. But there are other artifacts found in Groveland, like this 4-inch Snyder's Point, estimated to be 2,000 years old, just one of many projectile points located by Groveland Township farmers. By the early 1800s, new people had found their way up the Saginaw Trail. By the 1830s, these newcomers had followed the Saginaw Trail, now called the Saginaw Turnpike, followed it into Groveland Township, and were beginning to purchase land in the area. In 1839, there was a post office there. But in 1836, before the post office, Philip McComber had built a large log house, which he used as an inn, a small hotel. It became known as Groveland Cottage. Now wait, why did you need a hotel in the area at this time? People were just beginning to purchase farmland. It was because that hotel was a stagecoach stop. By the late 1830s, stagecoaches were running between Flint and Detroit. It was a long trip. It took at best 12 hours, and that was in the summertime. In the heart of winter or in a soggy, muddy spring, it could take way longer. Little hotels like Groveland Cottage had begun to appear along the Saginaw Turnpike. And around Groveland Cottage, a little town grew, called Groveland or Groveland Corners. At one time it had 2 hotels, a store, a school, and several blacksmith shops. Today it's pretty much just a gas station. At the time the town was growing, around 1870, George Stewart purchased land just on the edge of town. He'd been a Civil War soldier in Company G of the 3rd Michigan Infantry. The lake that's part of Groveland Oaks was named for the Stewart family. They would own the land for a very long time. Their farmhouse and barns were located along Grange Hall Road, just to the east of the campground. The Lennon family had owned land in the area since the 1840s. By the 1890s, Barney Lennon had inherited it. Some of it was heavily wooded. So in 1891, Barney sold 50 acres of oak timber to the Grand Trunk Railroad. A portable sawmill and engine was brought in onto the land to cut the timber. A vacant house up on Tripp Road was turned into a boarding house for the lumberjacks at the time. It took 3 months to cut that timber. By the early 1900s, Dr. Felshaw and his wife, Dr. Felshaw had been a physician in Holly for many years. They purchased some of the land. James Hawley had bought the Lennon farm and was raising cattle on it, and the Stewarts still owned the land around Stewart Lake. In the 1940s, there'd be a big change. Lamar Matthews, a physician, an eye doctor from Pontiac, purchased much of the land. His intent was to have what he called a gentleman's farm, a place where his family could come out on weekends. Dr. Matthews made some changes. He built a 2-story brick building at the corner of Grange Hall and Dixie Highway. Out of that building, his son ran a Kaiser Fraser auto dealership. When that auto company went out of business, he turned it into a gas station and auto repair business. Eventually, Dr. Matthews turned it into Groveland Eye Clinic. And today, it's a state police post and fire station number 1 of Groveland Township. Eventually, Dr. Matthews turned his farm into a recreation area he called Groveland on the Dixie. It had golfing and swimming and camping, and he had a small exotic zoo. It had monkeys and peacocks, a huge pig named Excelsior, and he imported gigantic bullfrogs from Arkansas. In 1967, Oakland County purchased that land, and it became Groveland Oaks County Park. So when you're visiting Groveland Oaks, think about the history, 2,000 years of it, that's connected to that park. And keep your eyes open. There still might be some gigantic bullfrogs from Arkansas still lurking there.